My parents gave my sister a luxury villa and left me with nothing but an empty parking lot. You can always sleep under the stars, they joked. But when I turned that lot into a thriving business, suddenly they wanted to share. Can you honestly envision being bequeathed a desolate stretch of asphalt as your sole inheritance, while your pampered sister sachets into a multi-million-dollar luxury villa? That's precisely the cruel hand my parents dealt me. They didn't just do it. They gazed into my eyes, chortled with contempt, and sneered, "You can always sleep under the stars." What they failed to comprehend was that their malicious jest was about to ignite the most gratifying vengeance of my entire life. I should have known that dinner was a setup. My parents, they never extended an invitation unless it served their purpose. And that purpose, invariably, was to remind me of what a monumental failure I was. Yet, deep within, a stupid, naive sliver of hope stubbornly clung, whispering that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. So I went. I earned my keep as a mechanic. Nothing glamorous, but I'm damn good at it. I fix things. I get paid. I mind my own business. Meanwhile, my sister, Emily, she's their perfect little angel. Never soiled her hands with actual work. Everything handed to her on a silver platter. She could probably incinerate their mansion, and they'd still contrive a way to pin it on me. So I strode in. Emily was already ensconced, sipping wine like the queen of the manor, a self-satisfied smirk plastered across her face. Dad was at the table, languidly flipping through the newspaper, barely acknowledging my existence. Mom hovered in the kitchen, feigning busyness, likely to avoid my gaze. "Wow, Logan," Emily smirked, her eyes raking over me with disdain. "You actually showed up? What? Did you take the night off from changing tires?" I ignored her, my jaw tight, and took a seat. Mom said it was important. Dad finally folded his newspaper, his expression utterly dispassionate. "It is. We decided to divide our assets." Emily instantly lit up, quivering with anticipation. She knew, of course, that something grand awaited her. Mom smiled warmly at her, a stark contrast to the way she'd just eluded my glance. "We're giving you the beach house, sweetheart." Emily gasped, clutching her chest as if she'd just won an Oscar. "Oh my God, the one in Malibu?" Mom nodded, beaming. "Yes, honey, it's yours now." I sat there, a knot of acid churning in my gut, waiting. There had to be something for me too, right? Some small piece, some meager recognition. Dad turned to me then, his gaze frigidly vacant. "And you, Logan, we're giving you the parking lot." Silence. My mind went blank. I blinked. The what? "The old lot on 8th Street," Mom said, waving a cavalier hand as if bestowing a magnificent gift. "It's land. You can figure something out." Emily burst out laughing, a shrill, derisive cackle that scraped against my raw nerves. "Oh my God, that is hilarious." She turned to me, her eyes glinting with malicious glee. "Well, at least you'll always have a place to sleep under the stars." Dad chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "That lot's been empty for years. But hey, maybe you can open a lemonade stand or something." Mom sighed, shaking her head. "Logan, you always say you want to build something for yourself. Now's your chance." I just stared at them. This wasn't even an insult veiled as kindness. This was pure, unvarnished degradation. A memory flashed in my mind. Me at 16, coming home, caked in grease from my first job at the auto shop. I'd been so proud, clutching my first paycheck, desperate to show them I was working hard. Emily was sprawled on the couch, whining about needing a new car for her birthday. Dad hadn't even looked at me. "You're gonna smell like oil for the rest of your life, huh?" Mom had shaken her head. "Well, at least he's useful. Maybe one day he'll fix your car for free, Emily." Emily never had to. They bought her a brand new BMW that same week. And now, years later, nothing had changed. I took a slow, deliberate breath, pushing back from the table. "You're serious?" Dad shrugged dismissively, utterly unconcerned. "You should be grateful we're giving you anything." Emily snickered. "Maybe one day you'll make enough money to buy a real property." They started laughing again, as if this were the funniest thing in the world. I clenched my jaw, my knuckles white as bone against the chair's edge. But I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just nodded. "Okay, Mom frowned. That's it? No thank you. I stood up. Oh, I'll make something of it. I looked at Emily, holding her gaze. And when I do, don't come knocking. She rolled her eyes. Sure, Logan. Can't wait to see what you do with a slab of concrete. Dad shook his head, muttering under his breath. Always so dramatic. I walked out without another word. Fine. They thought they could humiliate me. I'd transform that despised concrete slab into something they'd never see coming. And when I did, they'd gag on their own condescension. I stood in front of that parking lot, gazing at it as if it were some twisted cosmic joke. Cracked pavement, defiant weeds pushing through the asphalt, a rusted sign precariously clinging to its post. My parents hadn't just screwed me over. They'd reveled in it. Fine. They craved my failure. I'd ensure they choked on their every word. The very next morning, I filed for permits to allow food trucks. If this was nothing but a slab of concrete, then I'd mold it into a profitable slab of concrete. Within a week, I'd secured contracts with some of the best local food truck owners. Gourmet tacos, artisanal burgers, specialty coffee, even some outrageously priced vegan bowls for the trendsetters. I took out a modest loan, not from a bank, but from my boss at the auto shop, a man who genuinely believed in the power of honest labor. I invested it in setting up dazzling lights, comfortable seating, vibrant music, and eye-catching banners, breathing life into the barren space. 3 weeks later, that useless parking lot was a full-blown food court, pulsating with live music and lines snaking around the block. And that's when the real fun began. About a month in, after the place had ignited social media buzz, I saw her. Mom. She appeared in her opulent coat, surveying the scene as if she'd stumbled into a landfill. I was checking inventory when she approached. So, this is what you've done, she said, wrinkling her nose at the joyful crowd. I didn't even bother looking at her. Yeah, well, you gave me trash, so I made it work. She exhaled sharply, clearly unimpressed. This isn't a real business, she said, her tone patronizing. It's just a phase, right? I laughed. A phase that's generating more revenue than Emily's entire influencer charade. Her face twitched, and as if on cue, Emily rounded the corner. She stopped dead in her tracks, her usual smugness vanishing as she absorbed the vibrant, bustling reality. What on earth? She snapped. You turned this into some kind of, what is this? A flea market? I grinned. It's called a successful business. She scoffed. This is a joke. This isn't real money. I gestured around. Yeah? Then why are hundreds of people spending their fake money here every night? A few customers actually clapped. Emily's face turned beet red. Mom, say something, she whined. Mom cleared her throat, visibly uncomfortable. Logan, we're just concerned. This doesn't seem stable. I raised an eyebrow. Stable? Like the fully furnished beach house you handed Emily for free. Emily cut in quickly, panicked. You can't sell this. This is family property. I let out a short, incredulous laugh. Oh, now it's family property? That's rich. When you were all laughing at me, I don't recall family being part of the conversation. Her jaw clenched. This isn't fair, she snapped. You didn't earn this. I slowly turned to face her. My voice dropped to a perilous whisper. Are you seriously saying that to me? She crossed her arms, but her confidence wavered. I'm just saying selling it would be betraying the family. I tilted my head. When you dumped it on me as a joke, that wasn't betrayal? Mom looked like she was searching for something to say. Then she finally found it. Well, she said carefully, if this business is doing so well, maybe we should discuss a partnership. I stared at her. Then I laughed. Loud. So loud a few customers turned to see what was happening. You're kidding, right? I asked. You ignored me, humiliated me, gave me nothing, and now that I've made something out of it, you want a piece? Emily crossed her arms. It's family money now. I took a step forward, looking her dead in the eye. You already got your share, I said, my voice cold as ice. Live with it. And then, without another word, I turned my back on them and walked straight into my thriving business, leaving them standing there like statues. They thought they could break me, but I was just getting started. It began with a phone call. I was in my office, a small converted shipping container at the edge of my flourishing food truck park, when my phone buzzed. Mom. I stared at the screen for a second before declining the call. A minute later, another, then another. I smirked. They needed something. By now, my food truck park was the hottest spot in town. We had live music, weekend events, VIP sections, and influencers vying for an invitation. I was pulling in more money in a month than I used to make in a year at the auto shop. And suddenly, my family, who had laughed in my face, couldn't stop calling. A few days later, I was at the lot overseeing a delivery when I heard a voice that made my skin crawl. Logan. I turned. Emily. She stood there, her arms crossed, but she didn't look smug this time. She looked desperate. I raised an eyebrow. Well, you actually came to the parking lot. What? Did your car break down? She exhaled sharply. I need to talk to you. I checked my watch, making a show of it. I've got 5 minutes. Make it count. Her jaw clenched, but she swallowed her pride. I need to sell the beach house. I blinked. The same beach house you gloated about. She ignored that. The market is trash right now, and I need money fast. I smirked. Let me guess. Too many luxury vacations, designer bags, and overpriced lattes? She stiffened. It's complicated, she muttered. Just say you'll help. I leaned against a food truck, crossing my arms. Help how? She hesitated. I need $200,000 to cover debts before I can even list it. I whistled. Oh man, that's rough. I turned back to my delivery and waved over the driver. Anyway, good luck with that. She grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. Are you serious? You have the money. I pulled away. Oh, now my business is real enough for you to beg for a loan? Her face turned red. Logan, we're family. I laughed. Funny. Last time we talked, you told me I was a joke. Where's all that energy now? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I'll pay you back, she finally said, her voice quieter, almost a whisper. Please. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I leaned in close and said, no. Her eyes widened. No. I smiled. That's right. The same way you and Mom and Dad said no when I needed support. The same way you all laughed in my face. So no, Emily. I won't bail you out. She took a step back, actually shocked. Then her rage came flooding in. Are you serious? You just gonna let me fail? I shrugged. That's not my problem. And I walked away. But it wasn't over. A week later, I pulled into my lot and saw my parents standing there. Mom looked irritated, her arms crossed, tapping her foot. Dad just looked tired, slumped shoulders, defeated. Logan, Mom started, her voice tight. We need to talk. I sighed, already knowing what was coming. Let me guess. Emily ran, crying to you. And now you're here to talk some sense into me. Mom pursed her lips. This is a serious situation. Dad finally spoke, his voice low and raspy. We need your help, son. I raised an eyebrow. Son. Oh, now I was a son again. Mom sighed, looking away. Your father's business isn't doing well. We're in financial trouble. I fought the urge to smile, to punch the air. Oh, I said, feigning surprise. You mean the family that handed my sister a mansion and gave me a piece of concrete is struggling? Who could have seen that coming? Mom's nostrils flared. Don't be childish, Logan. I tilted my head. Childish? Like laughing in someone's face when they're struggling. Dad groaned, rubbing his temples. We don't need a lecture. We need a loan. There it was. The golden moment. I rubbed my chin, savoring it. How much? Mom swallowed, her eyes darting nervously. $500,000. I actually laughed out loud. No way. $500,000. Dad nodded, looking utterly exhausted. A broken man. You're successful now. You can afford it. I crossed my arms. Oh, so now I'm successful. Mom snapped, her temper flaring. Don't be a brat, Logan. We are your family. I let that hang in the air, the silence thick with their desperation. Then I smiled, a slow, cold smile. Let me tell you something about family. I took a step closer. Family doesn't mock you when you're struggling. Another step. Family doesn't treat you like a joke. And one more. And family doesn't show up only when they need something. Mom's face turned pale, her bravado completely gone. Dad muttered, Logan, please. I exhaled and shook my head. You made your choices. I gestured to my lot, my success, my empire, and I made mine. Then I stepped back. I'm not giving you a cent. Mom gasped, her voice thick with disbelief. and outrage. "You ungrateful person." I held up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "No, we're done." I turned to go. "Logan," Dad called out, his voice cracking. "If you walk away from this," I paused, turned back. "If I walk away," I repeated, my gaze fixed on him. "You mean like you walked away from me?" Silence. Then I nodded. That's what I thought. And I left them standing there. My revenge wasn't just saying no. It was making sure they watched me win. I thought I was done with them. I made myself crystal clear. No money, no help, no second chances. But people at my parents and Emily, they don't take no for an answer. And sure enough, a few days later, they came back swinging. It started small. Bad reviews online. I was checking my phone when I saw the first one. 1 star. Asterisk, this place is overrated. Food is overpriced, and the owner is incredibly rude. Avoid. Asterisk, then another 1 star. Asterisk, my experience was terrible. The staff is unprofessional, and the entire place smells like garbage. Asterisk, and another 1 star. Asterisk, do not support this business. The owner is a selfish, ungrateful person who doesn't care about family. Asterisk, I chuckled. Nice try, Mom. She always had this habit of playing the victim. First, she'd throw you under the bus, then act like the injured party. I could already picture her sitting in the kitchen, angrily typing out fake reviews between sips of her overpriced wine. But they didn't stop there. A few days later, a city inspector showed up. "Anonymous complaint," he said, looking almost embarrassed. "Someone reported that your permits might not be up to code." I nodded, a smirk playing on my lips. "Let me guess. A middle-aged woman and her spoiled daughter?" The guy scratched his head. I can't say who filed it, but something tells me you already know." Oh, I knew exactly who it was. And then another complaint came in, this time about my seating area allegedly violating space requirements. Then one about noise levels. Then another about food safety. They were trying to bury me in legal red tape, drown me in fines. They wanted to kill my business before it could grow any bigger. But here's the thing. I'm not that easy to break. Instead of panicking, I fought back. I hired a lawyer. Every permit, every license, every single regulation was checked, rechecked, and locked down so tight that even the city inspector admitted there was nothing wrong. I doubled my marketing. If they wanted to ruin my reputation, I drowned them out with positivity. I started running special events, giveaways, live performances. I reached out to local influencers, inviting them to VIP tasting nights. I expanded. If they thought I was a problem before, they had no idea what was coming. I rented extra space next door to open an outdoor beer garden. I partnered with local artists to set up weekend craft markets. I turned their pitiful machinations into free publicity, and my business boomed. Then Emily made the biggest mistake of her life. It was a Saturday night, the busiest night of the week. The air was buzzing with music, laughter, and the irresistible scent of fresh tacos. Lines stretched across the lot. The entire place was packed. That's when I heard it, a shouting voice near the entrance. "This place is a joke." I turned. Emily. And she was drunk. Her hair was a mess, her makeup smudged, and her expensive designer dress was wrinkled like she'd been crying in her car before walking in. Mom was right behind her, grabbing her arm. "Emily, stop this. This isn't." Emily ripped away from her. "I can't believe you think you're better than us," she screamed, her voice slurring. "Look at you. You're a mechanic playing businessman." A few customers turned, pulling out their phones. I smiled. Perfect. I walked toward her, keeping my voice calm. "Emily, leave." She stumbled closer, her eyes bloodshot. "You think you're a big shot now, huh? You think you're better than us?" I smirked. "I don't have to think it. I just am." Her face twisted with unbridled, venomous fury. "You're nothing. Nothing." And then splash. I didn't even see it coming. She had grabbed a drink off a random customer's table and threw it at me. A wave of cold beer hit my chest. The entire lot went dead silent. A second later, 2 of my security guards gently tackled her to the ground. The crowd erupted in gasps and whispers. Mom screamed, "Let her go. She's your sister." I brushed my soaked shirt and turned to my head of security. "Call the cops." Emily's eyes widened in horror. "What? No, Logan. Don't." I crouched down, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "Actions have consequences, Emily." 10 minutes later, the ominous strobe of emergency lights flashed across the lot. Mom was frenzied. "You're ruining the family name," she shrieked. I just laughed. "Lady, you did that all on your own." Emily was put in the back of the cop car, begging. She looked just like I did all those years ago when they humiliated me. But unlike them, I didn't care. Mom turned to me, her voice quivering with a potent cocktail of fury and hopelessness. "This is your sister. Do something." I crossed my arms. "Oh, you mean like how you did something when you gave me nothing and laughed in my face?" She had no answer for that. I turned, walking back toward my customers. "Oh," I called over my shoulder. "Hope the beach house is worth it." And then I went back to my thriving business. They wanted to watch me fail. Now they had front row seats to my success. After Emily's drunken meltdown and arrest, I thought they'd finally get the message. I was wrong. A week later, Mom and Dad showed up at my business again. This time, they weren't smug. They weren't laughing. They just looked desperate. I was in the middle of a meeting with my event planner when I spotted them hovering near the entrance, Goshen profoundly misplaced. For years, I had been the one feeling small around them. Never enough, never worthy. Not anymore. Now, I was the one in control. I finished my meeting, let them wait a little longer, then finally walked over, arms crossed. "You're back," I said, keeping my tone casual. "Let me guess. Emily sent you because she's too embarrassed to face me." Dad cleared his throat, avoiding my gaze. "We need to talk, Logan." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, like the talk we had when you laughed in my face and handed me a piece of garbage while giving Emily a mansion?" Mom pursed her lips, tried to regain some composure. "This isn't about the past." I chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Oh, it's absolutely about the past. Because if you hadn't treated me like dirt, you wouldn't be standing here begging me for help." Her eye twitched, but she forced a calm expression. "We're in trouble." I already knew. Emily had maxed out her credit cards, trying to keep up appearances. Her beach house was on the verge of foreclosure because she had refinanced it 3 times to fund her influencer lifestyle. And Dad's business was bleeding money because the economy crashed and his trusted business partners bailed on him. They were sinking, and now I was their only lifeline. Dad exhaled a deep, weary sigh. "Logan, we're family, and family helps each other." I burst out laughing. A genuine, mirthless laugh. "That's rich. You didn't care at all about family when you screwed me over. Now that you're broke, suddenly it's about family." Mom stiffened, her jaw tight. "You have more than enough to help us. Why are you being so spiteful?" I stepped closer, lowering my voice, making sure they knew I meant every word. "Spiteful? Oh no. Spiteful would be me buying your house just to kick you out of it." Their eyes widened. Dad's face paled. "You wouldn't," he choked out. I smirked. "Wouldn't I? Because here's the thing. I've been waiting for this moment. After Emily's meltdown, after their petty sabotage attempts, I knew they'd come crawling. So I made a backup plan. While they were busy drowning in debt, I had been buying property, expanding, and guess what? Their house, their childhood home. The bank had listed it for sale, and I had bought it. Mom's face went absolutely white. "No," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You're lying." I pulled out my phone, scrolled, and held up the email confirmation. "Logan, new property purchase confirmed." Dad's hand shook, trembling uncontrollably. "You bought our house," he choked out. I tilted my head. "You mean the house you told me wasn't my home anymore? The one where you let Emily treat me like garbage?" Mom grabbed my arm, her eyes wide with terror and desperation. "Please, Logan, we'll do anything. Just don't take our home." I pulled away from her grip. "Now you understand what it feels like to have something ripped away." She started crying, her face crumpling, but I didn't care. Not one bit. And then the final blow. I looked between them, took a deep breath, and let it out slowly. "You know what?" I said, drawing out each word. "I'm not heartless. I'll give you the house." Mom gasped, her head snapping. You will." Dad let out a shaky breath of relief, hope flickering in his exhausted eyes. A slow, predatory smile crept across my face. "Sure, on one condition." They both nodded frantically. "Anything," their desperate eyes pleading with me. "Anything." I took out a pen and paper from my pocket, a contract I had already prepared. "I'll let you live in it, but I own it, and you'll pay me rent every single month. No delays. Mom's jaw dropped. Logan, you can't be serious. I leaned in, my voice deadly soft. Oh, I'm deadly serious. Dad swallowed hard, his voice barely a whisper. How much? I named my price. It was high. Very high. More than fair for the market, but high enough that they'd feel the weight of it every single month. Mom's face twisted in horror. You're charging us to live in our own home? She spat. No, I said with a triumphant grin. I'm charging you to live in my home. Silence. Dad exhaled, defeated. We don't have a choice, do we? I shrugged. Of course you do. There are plenty of cheap motels in town. Mom glared at me, her eyes burning with hatred, but she knew she had lost. Slowly, with trembling hands, Dad signed a contract. Mom snatched the pen, digging it into the paper, so hard I thought she'd tear it. When they finished, I took the contract, folded it neatly, and slid it into my pocket. Pleasure doing business with you. I turned, leaving him standing there. Dad slumped against the wall, rubbing his temples, a man utterly vanquished. Mom wiped her tears, her face a mask of pure humiliation. They had spent their entire lives belittling me, laughing at me, treating me like I was nothing. Now I own their home. I own their future. I own them. And as I walked back into my business, the vibrant sounds of laughter and music embracing me, I smiled. They thought I'd be nothing. Now I owned everything, and they had nothing. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to fight back against family who betrayed you? Tell me what you think in the comments below. I really want to know.